Hello, we want to look at and continue with our discussion on crime analysis and intelligence gathering. Today, we want to look at crime analysis. We want to focus on three areas. The first one, we want to understand what is meant by crime analysis and also try to differentiate it from other related concepts such as crime detection. We also want to look at the functions of crime analysis. Why would law enforcement agencies and institutions spare time and resources in analyzing crime? That question, we want to answer it by looking at the functions that crime analysis serve. The last area that we want to look at is on the types of crime analysis. As law enforcement agencies grapple with the issue of how to analyze crime, how to understand crime so that they can come up with better interventions. We then need to understand the various pathways that law enforcement agencies might choose in their effort to analyze crime. So that is why we want to look at the types of crime analysis. We want to start, as I mentioned earlier, by attempting to understand what is meant by crime analysis. And a crime analysis can be understood as the systematic study of crime and disorder problems, as well as other police-related issues, so as to assist the police in apprehending criminals and also managing crime and disorder, as well as preventing crime, and also evaluating the successes and limitations of certain crime prevention strategies. So it is quite a huge thing. The focus of crime analysis is on the study of crime, and crime can be issues such as rape, robbery, and burglary, but it also focuses on the social disorder. Disorder could be things like noise complaints, burglary alarms, and even just suspicious activities, and also problems, as well as information which is related to the nature of incidents, offenders, and victims or targets, that is, inanimate objects that can aid the commission of crime or that can hinder the commission of crime, such as building and property, and problems that relate to crime prevention and management. So when you look at crime analysis, it focuses on quite a lot of areas. But we also understand crime analysis merely as a study and other police-related operational issues, such as staffing needs and areas of police service. In other words, when you talk of crime analysis, we're not basically looking at crime itself, but we're also looking at the interventions in terms of staffing and responses that have been put in place to help in combating crime. I also wish to note that although many different characteristics of crime and disorder are relevant to crime analysis, the focus is normally on three specific areas. That is socio-demographic. That is, when crime analysis is being undertaken, there is a very close concern about the perpetrators of crime and also victims of crimes in terms of their social demographic. That is, what are their gender? What are their race? What is their sources of income or income levels? What are their ages and even education level? So that we are able to understand the link between social demographic of perpetrators or victims and omission or commission of crime. But we also look at the spatial nature of crime, that is, where are crimes occurring? For instance, the crime locations. Are they in cities? Are they in villages? Are they along the roads? What are the geographical features within a given area that probably enhances the commission or could be used to reduce commission of crime? For example, are there mountains? Are there lakes that aid? Are there forests that aid? Are there buildings? What are the features that exist in a given area that could probably be hindering police effort in terms of combating crime? What about the situations in which victims and offenders come together? Where do they meet? Is it in pubs? Is it in hotels? Is it as travelers? Where exactly do they meet? Again, we also look at the temporal nature of crime, that is, the crime trends over the years, seasons. Which years are crime likely to occur? For instance, in Kenya, we have political crimes. Most of them occur around years when general elections are. Are they seasons? What time of day or week do crimes occur? Is it weekends? Is it in the morning? Is it at dawn? All these are part of the temporal aspects of crime analysis. So it is quite a huge area when we're talking about crime analysis. But I've said three major issues are focused on: the social demographic, the spatial, and the temporal aspects. What then are the functions? What then are the functions of crime analysis? In other words, why is crime analysis a necessary undertaking in law enforcement institutions or within the criminal justice sector? One of the functions of crime analysis is to identify the crime hotspots. By crime hotspots, we mean areas that have high concentration of crime activities. Areas that have high concentration of crime activities. So we are saying that when we are undertaking crime analysis, we are interested in understanding which areas have high concentration of crime activities. And one of the objectives of crime analysis is therefore to enable law enforcement agencies to identify the crime hotspots. Therefore, by pinpointing these hotspots, that is, areas that has high concentration of crime activities, law enforcement agencies can concentrate or direct their efforts on these locations, and this can be done by increasing police presence and also implementing targeted interventions. For example, if crime analysis reveals that a particular neighborhood experiences a high number of burglaries, law enforcement agencies may increase patrols in those particular areas. Again, they can also work with the communities in those areas to implement crime prevention measures so that in the long run, cases of crime are completely reduced. So one of the most important functions of crime analysis is to identify the areas with high crime activities, which we call what? The hotspots. The other important functions of crime analysis is to help identify crime trends. By crime trends, we refer to the type, the time, the location, perpetrators, and victims of crime, and other characteristics of criminal activities. So that when we look at trend, we basically look at what type of crimes are being witnessed or occurring, what time of the day, what time of the year are these crimes mostly occurring, which places are these crimes occurring, who are the people perpetrating, who are the offenders, and who are the victims. Of course, together with other characteristics of criminal activities. That's what we mean by crime trends. This information, in other words, the crime trend information is vital for allocating resources to effectively deal with crime. So that when it is clear that a given type of crime is becoming quite common, then it is better to channel resources to those particular types of crimes in terms of buying equipment, buying technology, and also training the law enforcement agencies to deal with those crimes. Sometimes it might even involve enactment of laws or strengthening of existing laws to adequately cater for certain criminal activities that are thought to be emerging. And therefore, crime analysis helps law enforcement agencies to identify patterns and trends in criminal activities. And this will allow the law enforcement agencies to anticipate and respond to emerging crime trends. For example, if crime analysis reveals a spike in burglary during weekends, law enforcement agencies can develop crime prevention measures. And these measures might include increased police patrols in affected areas, public awareness campaigns to educate citizens about securing their property, and increased community policing. So this is also an important function of crime analysis. The other important function of crime analysis is to enable the criminal justice system and the law enforcement agencies, scholars and community general to understand criminal behavior. And criminal behavior can be understood through a number of areas. One is the modus operandi, that is, understand the methods and behaviors of criminals. This is also essential for linking crimes and identifying potential suspects. And this kind of analysis helps in recognizing similarities in criminal behaviors across different cases. For example, what kind of crimes occur in Nakuru, in major towns? Are they similar? Are they different? And why are certain criminal behavior appear to be more conspicuous with certain areas and not in other areas? Again, through victim and witness testimonies, when we analyze the victim and witness testimonies, it's also possible for criminal behaviors to be understood. And therefore, analyzing victim and witness testimonies can provide valuable information about the circumstance of crime, the identity of the perpetrator, and also potential motives. Why do they engage in crime? What type of crime are they committing, and why do they commit such kind of crimes? What then are their motives overall? So that one is by understanding or analyzing the victim and witness testimonies. Again, we can also understand criminal behavior by analyzing the digital evidence, especially in the digital age. Analysis of electronic devices, internet activity, and communication records has become important in identifying and prosecuting cybercrimes and other offenses involving technology. So that we might want to look at what are they doing in the social space. And that's why many times police is interested in understanding communication gadgets, the phone calls, the social media postings, just to enable them understand what is really the motive, or are certain types of communications suggesting planning, commission, or cooperation between different individuals that engage in criminal activities. So digital evidence becomes an important area. The other area is the social and economic factors, so that it's also important to understand the economic data, the social data, is certain crimes being linked to certain socioeconomic class, the low class, the middle class, or the upper class. How about gender? Are women likely to be perpetrators of certain types of crimes? For instance, it is increasingly becoming clear in Kenya that spiking of alcoholic drinks in social places is largely being done by females. Of course, it does not necessarily mean that men may not be involved, maybe at the background, but much of evidence and many cases of arrests have pointed out to the females. So it's important also to understand the socioeconomic nature of the criminal behavior. So all this can enable the law enforcement agencies and the criminal justice system to understand what kind of behavior is being exhibited by perpetrators and victims of conflicts. So this is only possible when we undertake a thorough exercise, which we call crime analysis. The other important function of crime analysis is also to enable the law enforcement agencies and justice institutions to develop measures of preventing crime. And crime analysts provide valuable insights to law enforcement agencies that optimize their efforts to reduce crime. The analysis allows for law enforcement agencies to evaluate the effectiveness of their intervention strategies. And therefore, by analyzing crime data before and after implementing specific initiatives, agencies can measure the impact of their efforts. This evaluation helps determine whether the strategies are successful in reducing crime rates or if adjustments might be necessary. For example, if crime analysis shows that a decrease in drug-related offenses after implementing drug prevention measures in a given neighborhood, then such analysis will validate the effectiveness of intervention and justifies further investment in that initiatives. Otherwise, if the analysis reveals that cases of crime are still on the rise despite such interventions, then it might point out that it might suggest that the NINI is not working, and so it is always important for analysis to be done, because from the analysis, law enforcement agencies are able to tell whether or not certain measures that have been put in place are working or not. If they are working, then it justifies the need for further investments in those initiatives. If they're not working, then it means that there is need for change of strategy, or a revision of strategy, or a total overhaul, or a replacement of current strategies with the new strategies. So all these things become important, and the only way to understand them is through undertaking crime analysis. So the kind of measures that are employed to prevent crime can be informed by undertaking crime analysis, because crime analysis will reveal the crime trends, the hotspots, and everything. And those could go into informing the kind of strategies that the law enforcement institutions would employ to combat certain criminal activities. The other important function of crime analysis which I think the last function is that one of planning. Planning is important in the sense that by identifying areas with high crime rates and analyzing the type of crimes occurring in those areas, it helps law enforcement agencies plan on how to respond to crime challenges. And this may help agencies in decision making, such as resource mobilization, personnel training, and even acquisition of equipment to help in combating crime. For example, if crime analysis reveals an increase in cyber crimes, for example, agencies can invest in specialized training for officers in cybercrime to enable them combat cybercrime, or the law enforcement agencies can acquire advanced technology to combat cybercrime. If other forms of criminal conduct appear to be coming out or emerging or are revealed to be emerging by crime analysis, then targeted interventions could be made. And this could help in terms of planning, because we are talking of hotspots and trends. Even the training of the police, the training of the law enforcement agencies, legislations to combat crime, institution process, how we rehabilitate offenders, how we educate victims, will depend on the results of crime analysis. And therefore, crime analysis becomes an important tool that the law enforcement agencies use to plan on how to combat crime presently and in the future. And that planning might involve what kind of resources are needed, what kind of skills do our law enforcement personnel require in order to combat emerging crimes, and what kind of tools or equipment might be necessary for the law enforcement institutions to enable them combat crime effectively. So planning becomes an important tool, an important function of crime analysis. I now want us to turn our attention to the types of crime analysis. One of them is called intelligence analysis. Now, crime intelligence analysis refers to the analysis of data about people involved in crimes, especially repeat offenders, repeat victims, and criminal organizations and networks. This type of crime analysis largely seeks to understand more about the context of the lives, the jobs, the activities, the motives, as well as the plans of individuals and the networks that perpetrate or that fall victims of crime. The purpose of crime intelligence analysis is to assist sworn personnel. Sworn personnel, in this case, are the actual law enforcement agencies that have been employed and that have taken oath. We must understand that we have sworn and unsworn personnel in the identification of networks and apprehension of individuals to subsequently prevent criminal activity. The other goal is to attempt to link information together, prioritize information, identify relationships between individuals and crimes or between different crimes. For example, analysis might reveal that a lot of victims of cases of rape probably are also drug abusers. So drug abuse could be related to rape, and that's why the linkages has to be properly established, and also identify areas that require further investigation. Intelligence analysis has traditionally focused more or less on organized criminal activity, which includes drugs, prostitution, syndicates, and terrorism. Maybe to make it easier, I want to emphasize that when we talk of crime intelligence analysis, it is focusing more on people, individuals, and groups that are offenders or the ones that are victims, and not first offenders or first victims, but repeat offenders, either as individuals, as groups, and as organizations. The issue is, why is somebody still able to commit crime time and time again? Again, why are some individuals become victims of the same crime time and time again? What are the criminal organization enterprises and networks that are repeatedly perpetuating or becoming victims of certain forms of crime? So crime intelligence analysis focuses on the individual, organizations, and networks that have been reported as repeat perpetrators or victims of crime. The focus, as we noted earlier, they look at where do these people live, what kind of jobs and activities do they undertake, what is their motives in whatever they do, what are the plans, what networks do they have. Once all this is clear and is understood, then with that kind of information, the law enforcement agencies would be in a position to disrupt the activities, the process, deter, or significantly reduce cases of organized crime. The other type of crime analysis is called criminal investigative analysis. Criminal investigative analysis. This type of analysis is also called profiling, and this is the process of constructing a profile of a known offender based on the nature of crime, the facts of the case, and the characteristics of the victim. There's a difference here between this and what we found earlier, which we call crime intelligence analysis. In crime intelligence analysis, we're focusing on an individual or a network that is already known, while in criminal investigative analysis, we're focusing on a network or individual that is not known, but still there are cases of crime that are going on, except that the criminal investigative agencies are yet to get seize of the offender and the victims. Now the focus is on serial criminals, the victims or crime scene, as well as the physical, socio-demographic, psychological, and geographic characteristics to develop patterns that will assist in linking together and solving current serial criminal activity. As with the case of intelligence analysis, this type of analysis also focuses primarily on the qualitative data, surrounding serious serial crimes such as murder and rape. If, for instance, there have been murder cases going on in an area, maybe over several weeks or over several months, but it is yet to be known who exactly is responsible for these murders, then what then happens is the type of analysis that can take place is what we call criminal investigative analysis. As with intelligence analysis, rather data for this type of analysis is collected and analyzed on an individual level for those persons primarily or peripherally involved with the incidents. And therefore, the primary purpose of criminal investigative analysis is to develop patterns of serial crimes crossing national, subnational, and regions by linking behavior and evidence within and among incidents in order to apprehend the perpetrators. So this is an important area that also is useful in terms of bringing to the fore the kind of criminal activities that people are engaging or that occur in society. The other type of crime analysis is called the tactical crime analysis. Now, tactical crime analysis is the analysis of police data directed towards the short-term development of patrol and investigative priorities and deployment of resources. Now, this type of crime analysis utilizes only crimes and activity that are reported to the police station so that the data are more aggregate and somewhat less abundant than those used for criminal investigative and intelligence analysis. It also focuses on specific information about each crime, such as the method of entry, the point of entry, suspects' actions, types of victims, types of weapon used, as well as the date, time, location, and also the type of location. When you talk about this type of crime, we are basically focusing on crime that is prompted by the type of crime information that is reported at the police station. The police has a database of criminal activities that have been reported through what we call the occurrence book. So a study, a careful analysis of crime can be done based on the criminal records that have been reported at the police station. And in doing so, they will be in a position to tell the kind of crimes, the kind of suspects, the kind of victims, the kind of weapons that is more used. So this one is limited more to the records that are available at the police station. It is less complex compared to the other two. Field information such as suspicious activity calls for service, criminal trespass warnings, and persons with scars, marks, or tattoos collected by officers is also considered in the analysis. Of course, sometimes individuals might be asked, what caused these scars? Because certain scars could be assigned that the person was either injured or got harmed in the line of committing crime. The tactical crime analyst provides information to assist operational personnel in the identification of specific crime problems and also in the arrest of criminal offenders. So in this case, what happens is data that has already been reported to the police uses that data, analyzes it, and then from there, they try to see whether they're in a position to link the data they have to specific individual suspects. We have another type of crime analysis which we call strategic crime analysis. And strategic crime analysis is the analysis of data directed towards development and evaluation of long-term strategies, policies, and prevention techniques. In other words, we can analyze data for purposes of saying what can we do in future, 5 years, 20 years, or 10 years, in the foreseeable future, what can we do to combat crime? So when you talk of strategic analysis, it's analysis that is designed to help the law enforcement agencies in terms of developing long-term interventions, policies, and strategies. And although it starts with data from police records, strategic analysis usually includes the collection of primary data. Primary data means going to the people, the citizens, and asking them questions from a variety of other sources through both quantitative and qualitative methods. Nothing stops the police from studying records, both held by the police and other institutions, from conducting surveys using questionnaires and other methods, from conducting interviews with the past victims, past offenders, experts within the law enforcement agencies, and even the academia or private practitioners, just for purposes of enhancing the understanding about criminal activities, and in doing so, enabling them to come up with strategies that could be used to address crime in the long term. For example, information that is used in terms of crime analysis is primarily made up of crime incidents, but includes such information as date, time, location, methods of the crime, and detailed description of the crime. So that there is quite a lot of information that strategic crime analysis consider when they are undertaking crime analysis, because you don't want to come up with long-term strategies, long-term interventions without a comprehensive understanding of the nature of crime and how it is likely to evolve going into the future. The product of strategic analysis is to furnish information concerning long-range problems and also provide data relative to long-term increases or decreases in crime. For example, if poverty is a major cause of crime and is emerging as one of the major causes of crime, then the long-term strategies might be employment creation, just to see to it that most perpetrators, that individuals who perpetrate violence, or rather who engage in in crime as a result of poverty, their economic fortunes is improved, and therefore to see whether this can now help in terms of combating economic crimes. The last type of crime is called administrative crime analysis. Administrative crime analysis focuses on the provision of economic, geographic, or social information to administrators. For example, analysis tasks include grant writing, feasibility studies, and the preparation of special research projects. In other words, when we talk of crime analysis, administrative crime analysis, basically it means availing information to various audiences, to various users. For instance, quite often the law enforcement agencies, the police, could be called to court to brief the court about the state of certain investigations. We have seen in Kenya, for instance, Inspector General of Police and the DCIO being invited in court to give reports about the scope or the progress of certain forms of investigation. Or sometimes police often provide data detailing crime trends, saying this kind of crime has reduced, this one is on the increase. Such reports is part of what we call the administrative crime analysis. I want to thank all of you for listening to me, and I want to encourage you to note down anything that is not clear so that you could raise it at the appropriate time for further explanation. Thank you so much.